Hello everyone, good evening.
Hello, sir.
How you guys doing today?
Good, sir.
Ờ,
And you, sir.
ម្ដងគ្នាយើងសុខសប្បាយ
I'm good, sir. And you?
Yeah, I'm very fine. Thank you. Okay, so currently, Phnom Penh and Takmau city of Kandap province has been categorized into three zones: red, dark orange, dark yellow, and yellow zone, right? So where are you now? You are in red zone or in yellow or dark yellow? នៅក្នុង
Red zone.
Yellow, sir.
ប៉ុន្តែគេ red zone ខ្លះ
I am in the red zone.
Okay, you are in red zone, right? Only you or how about others? Are you in yellow or in dark yellow? Okay, so for those who are currently in red zone, so you will receive the vaccine, right? ចឹងអ្នកដែលនៅក្នុងតំបន់ក្រហមប្រកាសហើយគឺនឹងទទួលវ៉ាក់សាំង COVID-19 ដោយសារតែម្សិលមិញហ្នឹង our prime minister already make the clear announcement that everyone in red zone has to be vaccinated, right? អញ្ចឹងមកแล้วក៏យើងត្រូវការចាក់វ៉ាក់សាំងការពារ COVID-19 ណា COVID-19 and for those who are in dark yellow or in yellow zone you will receive the vaccine, right? I think sooner or later, right? Sooner or later. And today, there are more than I think around 400,000 doses of Sinopharm already, arrive Cambodia, right? Arrive Cambodia. អញ្ចឹងអា Sinopharm ដែលយើងទទួលបានពីចិនគឺជាជំនួយណាជំនួយពីចិនមកប្រកាសហើយគឺយើងផ្ដល់ឲ្យអ្នកដែលគាត់នៅក្នុង red zone ហើយ red zone អញ្ចឹងយើងបន្តការចាក់ណាបន្តការចាក់ហើយនឹងមកដល់បច្ចុប្បន្នហ្នឹងគឺយើងផ្ដល់វ៉ាក់សាំងទៅដល់ប្រហែលជា1លាន3ក៏1លាន4ណាជិត1លាន4ណា1លាន4អញ្ចឹងយើង target របស់យើងគឺសល់ច្រើនទៀតយើងកម្រោងគឺ10លានអ្នកណា10 million people and currently I think around 1.4 or 1.3 I think 1.3 million people have already been vaccinated, right? Vaccinated. អញ្ចឹងយើងត្រូវការរយៈពេលច្រើនហើយត្រូវការចំនួនវ៉ាក់សាំងច្រើនមែនទែនហើយដើម្បីផ្ដល់ទៅឲ្យប្រជាជនកម្ពុជាយើងណាទៅតាមអ្វីយើងកម្រងទុកអញ្ចឹងអត្ថភាពគឺយើងផ្ដល់ឲ្យអ្នកដែលគាត់នៅក្នុងតំបន់ក្រហមណាតំបន់ក្រហមយើងមានគ្នាយើងម្នាក់គាត់ជានិស្សិតនៅ department យើង I think he is already in year 3 he has been infected by COVID-19 right គាត់ឆ្លង COVID-19 ហើយបច្ចុប្បន្ននេះគឺគាត់ទទួលការព្យាបាលនៅមន្ទីរពេទ្យណាមន្ទីរពេទ្យអញ្ចឹងខាង department យើងផ្ដល់ការលើកទឹកចិត្តណាលើកទឹកចិត្តដោយ យើង concern អំពី attendant right of the student right student អញ្ចឹងយើងព្យាយាមដើម្បីជួយណាដើម្បីធ្វើឲ្យគាត់នឹងត្រឡប់មកវិញដោយមិនប៉ះពាល់ខ្លាំងដល់ការសិក្សារបស់គាត់ណាអញ្ចឹង attendant របស់គាត់គឺថាបាន well ក្នុងកម្រិតណាមួយណាអញ្ចឹងមានន័យថាគាត់អត់ fair attendant ទេណាក៏គាត់ eligible to take the exam right the supplementary exam when he's truly recover so when he recover he can come back to school right at any time right anytime អញ្ចឹងគ្នាយើងគឺត្រូវតែប្រុងប្រយ័ត្នណាប្រុងប្រយ័ត្នមែនតើដោយសារតែថ្ងៃនេះគឺចំនួនច្រើនហើយវាជាប្រវត្តិសាស្ត្រណាអញ្ចឹង recorded number of COVID cases in Cambodia today right is I think more than 800 cases 800ករណីជាងគឺច្រើនមែនតើច្រើនមែនតើសមមិញ698ឥឡូវ800ករណីជាងណាចឹងឃើញថាចំនួន COVID នៅកម្ពុជាយើងគឺអត់ថមថយសោះណាច្រើនមែនតើច្រើនមែនតើហើយបូករួមទាំងចំនួនករណីមួយចំនួននៅក្នុងSinopharm ណា Sinopharm ថ្ងៃនេះគឺ100ករណីជាងណា100ករណីជាងអានឹងមកយើងបូកជាមួយនឹងតាមបណ្ដាខេត្តមួយចំនួន គឺ800ករណីជាងអញ្ចឹងស្ថានភាពនៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាគឺ I think មិនទាន់មិនទាន់ថមថយហើយអានឹងនៅច្រើននៅឡើយណានៅច្រើននៅប្រទេសថៃគឺ I think today is around 1,800 cases នៅឥណ្ឌាគឺកំនិយាយណាឥណ្ឌាគឺច្រើនមែនទែន and you know the public health sector in India already fails because they cannot afford to cure right every COVID positive right ចំណាក់ការច្រើនពេកមន្ទីរពេទ្យតាមនៅក្នុងប្រទេសឥណ្ឌាគឺពេញទាំងអស់ហ្នឹង very congested very crowded even they don't have enough oxygen right facility don't have enough medical supply right medical supply so many countries provide the oxygen facility they provide the mask they provide some medical material right to India right India អញ្ចឹងឥណ្ឌាគឺកំពុងតែគ្រោះថ្នាក់ណាគ្រោះថ្នាក់នៅក្នុង situation មួយគឺរដ្ឋាភិបាលគឺមិនអាចជួយប្រជាជនបានណារាល់ថ្ងៃគឺស្លាប់ច្រើនមែនទែនរហូតដល់គេមកកើតជាអ្នកកន្លែងដុតសាកសពណាដុតសាកសពដុតនឹងចិត្តទីពេទ្យទៅទៀតណា they burn right they sometimes they bury right the dead right the dead bodies they just wrap the dead body with the plastic right and then they just drop into the ground right the bury right the dead body right the dead bodies អញ្ចឹងយើងឃើញថាច្រើនមែនទែននៅប្រទេសឥណ្ឌាហើយនឹងមិនសិនជាតាមការវិភាគរបស់ scholar របស់ some expert គឺមូលហេតុធំមានច្រើនមូលហេតុមានច្រើនមូលហេតុក្នុងប្រទេសឥណ្ឌាប៉ុន្តែអ្វីដែលយើងឃើញហ្នឹងគឺទី1តាក់ទងជាមួយរឿងនយោបាយទី2គឺតាក់ទងជាមួយរឿងសាសនាច្រើនណារឿងនយោបាយគឺដោយសារតែ some politician so now they are preparing for another election right so they just mobilize the people gather people and they try to announce their political agenda they make propaganda right during the political campaign right so a lot of people they gather they they mobilize they spread the COVID-19 right I think among themselves right among their community right ចឹងច្រើនមែនទែនណាច្រើនមែនទែនរឿងនយោបាយណារឿងនយោបាយហើយនយោបាយខ្លះទៀតគឺគាត់ព្យាយាមដើម្បីផ្ទុកព័ត៌មានណាកុំឲ្យចំនួនករណី COVID កើតច្រើនណាគឺវាប៉ះពាល់ទៅដល់reputation របស់ការមិនហើយអានេះក៏ជារឿងបញ្ហាមួយដែរណាបញ្ហាមួយទៀតក៏ជាបញ្ហាធំតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងសាសនាឥណ្ឌាណាឥណ្ឌាជាទូទៅរឿងរាល់ឆ្នាំឥណ្ឌាគឺគាត់ប្រារព្ធពិធីសែននៅមុខទឹកនៅទន្លេកុងគាណា Ganges River they shower right they take a bath they clean the body right in the Ganges River in the hope that they can get more good luck more good fortune right blessing right from the mother river right unfortunately this is the way that they spread the virus among the people right among the people អញ្ចឹងមនុស្សច្រើនតែនៅតាមទន្លេកុងគាណាទន្លេកុងគាអញ្ចឹងការឆ្លងគឺក្នុងចំណោមមនុស្សច្រើនណាមនុស្សច្រើនរហូតដល់មួយថ្ងៃគឺខ្ទង់ប្រហែលជា30,000 អ្នកជាងហើយ I think average I think around 300,000 people per day right per day yes 300,000 cases per day right កម្ពុជាយើងគឺនៅក្នុងបរិបទមួយដែលយើងកំពុងតែ contain the virus so we try to cut down right cut off the infection right the infection the line right of infection right from one community to the others therefore currently we need to categorize the area into 3 colors red dark yellow and yellow right yellow ជំនាញ3ពណ៌ហ្នឹងហើយ3ពណ៌ហ្នឹងដើម្បីគ្រប់គ្រងតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងលំហូរប្រជាជនហើយឬក៏យើងត្រូវកាត់ផ្ដាច់ការចម្លងហើយរវាងសហគមន៍មួយទៅសហគមន៍មួយទៀតហើយនឹងប្រហែលថ្ងៃមុនហ្នឹងគឺយើងប្រកាសក្នុងការបិទហើយ leave up ban តាក់ទងជាមួយនឹង cross border ហើយ cross provincial area ហើយយើងអាចទៅតាមខេត្តបានមិនសិនជាយើងមិននៅក្នុងតំបន់គេបិទគប់ណាយើងអាចទៅ ទៅខាងក្រៅបានណា you can cross the border right you can go to the other provinces and also you know some tourist site already you know open right for the people right so this is the way that you know the government can you know recover the local economy right it can improve the local economy យើងមើលតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងសេដ្ឋកិច្ចតាមតំបន់ណាតំបន់បើសិនជាយើងមិនបើកទេតើប្រជាជនយើងរស់ស៊ីយ៉ាងម៉េចណាយើងត្រូវការបើកទៅការ you know មានលំហូរ you know ចរន្តសេដ្ឋកិច្ចទៅតាមភូមិឃុំជាដើមហ្នឹងទៅតាមកន្លែងដែរมันមានការឆ្លង COVID-19 ណាអញ្ចឹងមកថាយើងមកយើង look at you know at the cluster right យើងមើលទៅលើ cluster ច្រើនណា cluster ណាដែលគ្រោះថ្នាក់យើង label as red zone cluster ណាដែលមើលទៅវាធ្ងន់គួរសមយើង label you know dark yellow right ខ្លះទៀតគឺមើលទៅpotential នៅក្នុងការ split ហ្នឹង the virus យើង label yellow right yellow zone ហ្នឹង yellow zone ហើយជាទូទៅគឺទីក្រុងភ្នំពេញហើយដែលជាកន្លែងដែលកាត់ច្រើនជាងគេណាយ៉ាជាទូទៅគឺតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងរោងចក្រណារោងចក្រនិងផ្សារណាផ្សារសិតតែជាកន្លែងដែលបដូរមនុស្សទាំងអស់ណា Okay so before we start group 4 presentation you have any news to share with us today or you have any concern or you have any information you want to you know let us know right you want to share with us okay so the floor is yours okay យើងមានអីដែលចង់ចែករំលែកមុនពេលរៀនចាប់ផ្ដើម presentation ជាទូទៅយើងមើលទៅ you know ការសិក្សារបស់ពួក psychologist មនុស្សទាំងអស់នៅក្នុងសង្គមសុទ្ធតែមានបញ្ហាផ្លូវចិត្តទាំងអស់ណា psychological problems ចឹងខុសគ្នាគឺទៅលើកម្រិតនៃបញ្ហា psychology ដែលខ្លះទៀតគឺគាត់មាន you know បញ្ហាច្រើនគាត់មានធ្ងន់ធ្ងរណាតែទោះមួយ great depression anxiety right តាក់ទងជាមួយនឹង mental disorder ជួយធ្វើឲ្យគាត់គិតខ្លីណាគិតខ្លីធ្វើឲ្យគាត់ you know ទៅជាបញ្ហាផ្លូវចិត្តឬក៏បញ្ហា you know ខួរក្បាលធ្ងន់ធ្ងរណាធ្ងន់ធ្ងរហើយជាទូទៅមនុស្សយើងគឺអាច control you know some mental disorder so we can calm ourselves we can you know find the other way that we can enjoy our activity right we can enjoy ourselves we can deal with you know the social burden the peer pressure right we can deal with you know the anxiety you know arising from you know COVID-19 right or many other you know internal pressure right អញ្ចឹងបើសិនជាយើងមានបញ្ហាតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងការសិក្សាឬក៏យើងមាន you know បញ្ហាតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងការរៀនឬក៏យើងមានបញ្ហាតាក់ទងជាមួយសង្គមយើងអាច share ជាមួយគ្នាយើងបានណាអញ្ចឹងយើងទុកពេលវេលាប្រហែលជា10នាទីដើម្បីឲ្យ share ណា share and of course I have a classmate and I will give you more you know more moral support right moral support and some you know solution right, to deal with your problem right you find solution to your problem so that you can I think you can at least you can feel a little bit relaxed you can reduce your anxiety you can you know you can control your mentality right I think to some extent right អញ្ចឹងក្នុងវិបត្តិហ្នឹងទាំងយើងទាំងខ្ញុំដែរគឺសុទ្ធតែមានបញ្ហាទាំងអស់ណា yeah អ្នកដែលគាត់ជាពិសេសគឺគាត់មានបន្ទុកច្រើនក្នុងគ្រួសារហើយបើសិនជាគាត់អត់ការងារធ្វើឬក៏គាត់you know គាត់ត្រូវការសង់ធនាគារក៏គាត់អីភាគច្រើនអ្នកទាំងនោះគឺគាត់មានវិបត្តិច្រើនជាងគេណាវិបត្តិច្រើនជាងគេអញ្ចឹងថាតើវិបត្តិហ្នឹងវា develop ទៅក្នុងកម្រិតណាហ្នឹងគឺជារឿងមួយទៀតណាដែលតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងពេលវេលាក្នុងការ you know lockdown ឬក៏ពេលវេលាក្នុងការ you know អនុវត្តវិធានការ you know បិទអីចឹងទៅឬក៏វិធានការ you know ទៅលើការលក់ដូររស់ស៊ីរបស់ប្រជាជនហើយប្រជាជនយើងចឹងខ្ញុំឃើញប្រហែលថ្ងៃនេះគឺក្នុង Facebook ក៏ដូចជានៅក្នុង social media មួយចំនួនទៀតគឺមានប្រជាជនមួយចំនួនគឺគាត់ចាប់ផ្ដើមមាន reaction ហើយទៅនឹងវិធានការមួយចំនួនណានិយាយថាសារតែគាត់មានជីវភាពអត់ណាគាត់ you know they have I think very difficult situation right I think now so they have no food to eat they have no they have to pay right I think pay off the debt right to the bank or to the microfinance they need to buy the medicines and sometimes their family are sick so they need treatment right they need medical treatment right and some support from daughter right however many private hospital or private clinic has been closed right closed ជាពេលខ្លះទៅទីពេទ្យទៅហើយយើងចង់ជួយទៅហើយ yeah ប៉ុន្តែពេលខ្លះពេទ្យអត់ទទួលទេដោយសារតែគេភ័យកូវីដណាភ័យកូវីដគេឲ្យទៅតែកូវីដសិនប៉ុន្តែក្នុងស្ថានភាពដែលមនុស្សគឺនៅក្នុងពេលវេលាមិនទាន់ណាមួយហើយដែលយើងមិនអាច provide assistance យើងមិន provide support ឬក៏យើងមិនអាចផ្ដល់ជាសេវាក្នុងការព្យាបាលបានចឹងធ្វើមនុស្សនឹងគឺចាប់ផ្ដើមមាន grievance ចាប់ផ្ដើមមាន hatred នៅក្នុងសង្គមមួយហើយវាអាចធ្វើឲ្យប៉ះពាល់ទៅដល់ការគិតរបស់យើងហើយប៉ះពាល់ទៅដល់ psychology ក៏ប៉ះពាល់ទៅដល់ sentiment ហើយ I think this is a social issue ហើយគឺជាបញ្ហាសង្គមមួយហើយដែលកើតឡើងនៅក្នុងក្នុង lockdown ក្នុងរយៈពេលប្រហែលជា2អាទិត្យណា2អាទិត្យ I think already 14 days right 14 days ចឹងស្អែកទៅគឺគេបន្តការ lockdown ក្នុងរយៈពេលមួយអាទិត្យទៀត until May 5th right May 5th អញ្ចឹងក្នុងអាទិត្យទៀតយើងតាមមើលទៀតហើយតើស្ថានភាព COVID-19 ក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាយ៉ាងម៉េចហើយប៉ុន្តែបើយល់ទៅតាមតួលេខហ្នឹងគឺអត់ថយសោះណាអត់ថយសោះមានតែកើនពីមួយថ្ងៃទៅមួយថ្ងៃរហូតដល់បច្ចុប្បន្នគឺខ្ទង់8ករណីជាងណា8ករណីជាងអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំមានតែ suggest ថាខ្លួនយើងគឺគ្នាយើងហើយគឺ continue to stay home ហើយ to find more leisure activity right to do right at home you can do gardening ហើយយើងអាចដាំផ្កាឬក៏យើងអាចថែសួនហើយក៏ដាំដាំផ្កាកុលាបដាំyou need to create something right I think a leisure activity right that you can kill your boredom you can reduce the anxiety right the anxiety reduce some pressure right from the society right from society ហើយគ្នាយើងអាចកាត់បន្ថយburden តាមរយៈការអានសៀវភៅណាឬក៏អានប្រឡំលោកឬក៏អាន short story ហើយឬក៏យើងមើល YouTube ហើយឬក៏យើងមើល K-pop Korean drama ហើយឬក៏យើងមើល Singapore រៀន drama Hong Kong drama អាហ្នឹងក៏ជាវិធីមួយក្នុងការកាត់បន្ថយសម្ពាធហើយយកតទៅជាមួយការសិក្សាក៏សម្ពាធតទៅជាមួយសង្គមហើយឬក៏បើសិនជាគ្នាយើងមានការងារប្រកបហើយគឺវាសម្ពាធតទៅមួយការងារសម្ពាធតទៅមួយជីវភាពហើយរស់នៅក្នុងសង្គមហ្នឹងណាអញ្ចឹងយើងកុំ focus ទៅលើតែព័ត៌មានហ្នឹងព័ត៌មាន COVID everything is about COVID right COVID-19 and today COVID-19 tomorrow COVID-19 ពេលខ្លះទៅជាបញ្ហាខួរក្បាលហ្មងជា psychological issue ហើយ psychological problem ហើយ the mental disorder ហើយយើងចាប់ដល់ភ័យ anxiety អត់ទៅលើ COVID ចាប់ដល់ភ័យហ្មងហ្នឹងគឺជាបញ្ហាផ្លូវចិត្តមួយណាអញ្ចឹងwe know right the problem is always there problem is there right the issue is there the COVID pandemic already existed right has already existed in Cambodia right it's still going on right we don't know when the COVID will disappear from Cambodia right however we know right we know the issue we know the problem and why not we find a solution to prevent ourselves right find a way that we can stay safe we can keep our family right safe from COVID-19 right អានេះគឺជាអ្វីដែលយើងធ្វើបានណាធ្វើបានអញ្ចឹងបើសិនជាយើងមានបញ្ហាតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងការសិក្សាឬក៏បញ្ហាតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងសង្គមហើយដែលយើងទាមទារឲ្យយើងធ្វើការអ្នកដោះស្រាយឬក៏យើងចង់ជជែកចេញពីចិត្តរបស់យើងមកនោះគឺក៏ជា good solution ហើយto release your anxiety to release your your pressure, right? I think from probably yourself, or from your study, or probably from your family, or probably from the society, right? Okay, so keep in mind, right? So I will allocate, I think, around 10 or 15 minutes, right? Yeah, for you to speak about yourself, your concern, right? Yeah, particularly about your study, right? So we can share our idea, we can deal with the problem all together, right? All together. Okay, so any other question or any other suggestion or any other sharing before we give the floor to group number 4 to present their case study, yeah, to present their chapter. Okay, គ្នាយើងមានសំណួរក៏មាន suggestion សំណុំពរក៏យើងមានព័ត៌មានដែលយើងចង់ share ជាមួយនឹងគ្នាយើងថ្ងៃនេះ
No ច្រើន
No right អូខេអញ្ចឹងល្អណាស់អញ្ចឹងគឺសង្ឃឹមថាគ្នាយើងគឺyou know staying safe and healthy physically and mentally right mentally ខ្ញុំ concern គឺតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹង mental health right yeah សុខភាពផ្លូវចិត្តហ្នឹងគឺសំខាន់មែនទែនក្នុងសម័យ COVID-19 ណាមានច្រើនហើយមានច្រើនសុខគេគឺមានគេរកឃើញហើយក្នុងរយៈពេលតែប្រហែលខែហ្នឹងគឺអ្នកដែលវិបត្តិផ្លូវចិត្តគឺច្រើនមែនទែនបូករួមទាំងសង្គមគឺ aging population you know isolationism ហើយជាងធ្វើឲ្យមនុស្សហ្នឹងគឺ develop a mental disease របស់គាត់វាទៅជា severe ហើយទៅជាកាន់តែធ្ងន់ធ្ងរឡើងណាធ្ងន់ធ្ងរឡើងអញ្ចឹងមកជាក្នុងប្រទេសជប៉ុនគឺមាន suicide case ឯករណីសម្រាប់ខ្លួនណា suicide ច្រើនមែនតើក្នុងចំណោមនិស្សិតពីច្រើនគឺច្រើនណាច្រើនរាល់ឆ្នាំគឺមិនតិចជាង200នាក់ទេនៅជប៉ុនណានៅស្រុកខ្មែរយើងនៅ in Cambodia ហើយខ្ញុំមិនគិតថាកូនសិស្ស suicide ដោយសារការសិក្សានោះទេណាកម្រមែនតើណាសឹងតែគ្មានតតសោះណាពីច្រើនគឺ suicide ដោយសារតែវិបត្តិស្នេហាយើងឃើញពីច្រើនណា right everyone
and family មួយទៀត
Yes sir yeah family and love
issue yeah ប្រហែលពីច្រើនឃើញគឺតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងស្នេហាច្រើនណាស្នេហាអញ្ចឹង red zone វាមាន dark yellow វាមាន yellow មាន friend zone មួយទៀតណា friend zone ក៏ជាបញ្ហាមួយដែរណាយ៉ាពេលខ្លះគេអត់ស្រឡាញ់ទៅជាវិបត្តិមួយទៀតណាហ្នឹងក៏ yeah okay just keep it as friend zone ហើយ not ទៅជា upgrade ទៅជាអីវិញអ្វីមួយទៀតគឺគេអត់ចង់បានគេចង់បាន friend zone ហ្នឹងគឺជាវិបត្តិមួយទៀតណាអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំគិតថា mentality របស់កូនសិស្សយើងគឺមិនអីទេណាក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាយើងនៅក្នុងប្រទេសជប៉ុនគឺគេ aim for a little bit high standard គេ stress តាក់ទងជាមួយ society គេ stress តាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងការសិក្សាណាគេ stress តាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងរឿងគ្រួសាររបស់គេអញ្ចឹងជាទូទៅគឺមានជជប៉ុនហើយគឺគាត់គិតថាជីវិតគាត់គឺអត់ន័យ meaningless តាក់ទងមួយការងារក៏តាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងតំណែងតំណងវាមនុស្សនៅក្នុងសង្គមណាចឹងពេលខ្លះគាត់ isolated from the society ហើយគាត់ចង់នៅម្នាក់ឯងគាត់ឃុំខ្លួននៅក្នុងបន្ទប់ម្នាក់ឯង stay alone ហើយ and sometimes they work continuously without any rest អត់ដេកអពួនទេវាទៅជា karoshi គឺធ្វើការរហូតដល់ស្លាប់ទៅទៀតណាក៏មានដែរនៅក្នុងប្រទេសជប៉ុនអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំឃើញថាប្រទេសជប៉ុនគឺវាក្នុងវា develop នៅក្នុងកម្រិតមួយគឺវាមនុស្សវាទៅជាខ្វះភាពស្និទ្ធស្នាលជាមួយនឹងគ្នាណា sentiment ក៏ខ្វះភាព socialization គឺវាតិចមែនតើក្នុងសង្គមណាជុំម្នាក់ៗគឺគាត់មាន value តាក់ទងមួយការងារ the job determine your value ហើយទោះបីជាគាត់ចាស់ក៏ដោយអាយុ70 80ឆ្នាំជាងក៏គាត់នៅតែមានការងារធ្វើណាគាត់នៅតែចង់ធ្វើការគាត់អត់ចង់ retire they do not want to waste their time right staying at home taking care of grandchildren they do not want to do so right ចឹងពេលខ្លះគាត់ទៅធ្វើការនៅតាមទីសាធារណៈទៅបោះសម្រាមទៅអីចឹងទៅអានេះគឺជា value right set by the society right ចឹងមនុស្សយើងគឺចាប់ផ្ដើម lack you know interaction អញ្ចឹងបើធៀបមួយបើប្រៀបធៀបនៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាយើងស្រុកយើងល្អជាងណាល្អជាងក្នុងកម្រិតមួយថាយើងទៅណាក៏ដោយក៏យើងមានបងប្អូនយើងមាន relative ជប់លៀងហើយបន្ទាន you know ទៅចំណាយពេលវេលាសប្បាយជាមួយនឹង you know ក្មួយជាមួយនឹងគ្រួសារជាមួយនឹងជីដូនមួយហើយតាយាយតាមខេត្តហើយយើងគឺទៅសប្បាយមែនតើហើយទោះបីតែអ្នកចិត្តខាងរបស់យើងហើយពេលខ្លះគឺយើងឲ្យម្ហូបអាហារទៅវិញទៅមកហើយយើងជជែកជាមួយគ្នាពេលខ្លះខ្ជិលទៅអង្គុយនៅតុកាហ្វេហើយនិយាយដើមនេះនិយាយដើមនោះវិភាគរឿងព័ត៌មានហើយតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹង IR ហើយតាក់ទងជាមួយព័ត៌មាននយោបាយហើយអានេះគឺជា social interaction ហើយ socialization ហើយដែលមនុស្សយើងគឺគាត់មាន hope they can reduce their stress they can you know reduce the boredom right to kill the boredom they enjoy their time right so the way that they enjoy their time is not invested time right so they can you know at least they can you know deal with some you know psychological issue right អូខេអញ្ចឹងyeah នេះគឺជាអ្វីដែលខ្ញុំ share ណាតើតើជាមួយនឹងអ្វីដែលគេរកឃើញណាតើតើ you know society តើតើជាមួយនឹង you know the impact right of COVID-19 right on you know the society right yeah, particularly on the you know psychology right, of the people okay so today we go to a new chapter about leadership right in East Asia so the case study is you know about competition right between China and Japan right and group number 5 are you ready to present your chapter
Yes, sure.
okay so can you share this PowerPoint slide with us now
Can you see it now, everyone?
yes
Okay.
we can you
Okay.
may start your presentation now
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Okay, so excuse me, can you hear me?
yes please
So good evening, lecturer and everyone. We are from group 4, and our chapter presentation today is regional leadership in East Asia, Japan, and China as contenders. And he is our group member, as we mentioned on the slide. Next slide, please. And also here's our content. We divide it into 5 main contents, and in each content we include several main points. So now, first of all, next slide, please. So now, first of all, we would give you the reason why we should study the regional leadership in East Asia. So according to the book, there are 4 main reasons why we should study regional leadership in East Asia. So first of all, East Asia is now one of the most important regions in global system geopolitically and geoeconomically. It is also becoming a more current religion entity through various integrative economic, political, and socio-cultural process. Also, it is viewed as an important for China's approach to taking on international roles and responsibility. Lastly, it is like the further strengthen of basic region-based multipolar world orders. So you may see the word 10 contenders or the regional leadership in our chapter. So according to the book, China and Japan is the contender, but there's an opinion of whether China and Japan or the United States are the real contender or the leadership in East Asia. So according to the research, China and Japan actively mostly act as the regional leaders in East Asia in terms of various criteria, such as material, technology, ideational, and so on. Also, there are 80% of the East Asian economic GDP that are benefit from both China and Japan. Not to mention, China is also the largest trading partner for most East Asian states. And what about US? So during Cold War, US also play an important role in providing regional public goods. Its military serve East Asia security. However, it is less the United States is less important to the region in economically, politically, and socio-culturally, specifically after the end of Cold War. Also, US is ranked as the third or even fourth ranking partner with a trading partner with East Asia behind Japan and the European Union. So after my explanation, you will see that China and Japan is considered as the contenders of the East Asia. So let's move to next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Back. However, there are also a problem relating to the regional leadership between China and Japan. All of you may know that East Asia is a diverse region of its economic, politics, tradition, and even the conflicts. Both China and Japan, they have like its own and different vision and project of East Asian community. Japan prefer the wider regional membership that include counterbalancing nation, while China prefer tighter grouping reflect as more conventional understanding of East Asia region. So they have like different vision of East Asia region. But notwithstanding, we expect that China and Japan agree for the co-leadership arrangement in East Asia. That are all the information of East Asia as well as the contenders. Next slide, please. So now let's talk about East Asia and the emerging of regional order. So you may see the word regional order here. So what is regional order? So let me give this basic information first. So during Cold War, there's confrontation between superpower countries such as US and Soviet Union. Also, there are conflict between China and Vietnam in East Asia. So at the same time, East Asia regional order was influenced by those superpower country. The conflict happened between countries and countries until the late 1980s. There's the end of Cold War and the collapse of bipolar system. So the regional order in East Asia has changed, and the major power no longer in the confrontation, like they have no competition in the East Asia region. Also, the countries in East Asia were increasingly interdependent with each other and generally improve and develop their mutual relationship, multilateral mechanism, and the went fast developed. So East Asia as a whole has maintained peace and registered the fastest economic growth in the world. So now the regional order is just like a framework that the region contain the tactic of how one region maintain peace, security, development, and stability. So as an evidence I already mentioned, after Cold War, East Asia manage or arrange the regional order specifically, and next part, I've talked about the interest that East Asian country shape the regional order directly, determined for peace and development. So, to achieve the specific particular regional order in order to preserve peace, security, and stability in one region, East Asians should strengthen their bilateral economic and security partnership and strive to build an Asian economic community on the basis of the existing free trade area. Second, countries should continue to improve the Asian Center regional security mechanism and other mechanism of field sharing sovereign quality, sharing the leadership power and responsibilities. Next slide, please. Third, major power relation in East Asia should emulate the new model of no confrontation and conflict, mutual respect, and win-win cooperation. Fourth, the US alliance will continue to exist for a long to come, but they need to adapt to the evolving situation in East Asia and contribute to regional peace and development. Lastly, the relevant countries should work to resolve the issues such as Korean nuclear issue, the territorial and the maritime dispute in East China Sea and the South China Sea. So here I will give the extra information that I got from the book. So the growing currents of East Asia, like how the East Asia being united, it may view from as associative, organizational, and integrational, like how they are associated, how they work in one organization, or how they integrate with each other. Also, the region, all region, not only East Asia, are in some way socio-cultural constructed or social politically constructed, like they have the same cultural or they have like political tension in common. Also, they add some extra information of the East Asia regional order. So the word with the variable geometry is method of how to explain how member state may enter to different arrangement of regional cooperation or integration. And the concept of variable geography is the way to imply to which country may or may not qualify for regional membership. Just to remind that there are two sub-regional elements of East Asia, which are the Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia. This is the end of my presentation, and my next teammate will be responsible for the next part. Thank you.
Thank you for the floor. So now we are going to look further on this chapter, which is about leadership in East Asia. So in this part, we are looking at general theory and idea on regional leadership. So therefore, there are questions toward regional leadership function, expectation, and benefit. So what are the function, expectation, and benefit of the regional leadership? So what leadership in the region supposed to provide to regional country? So here are the 4 different aspects as the regional leadership will provide to the regional country according to the book. So first and foremost, the provision of regional public good. So as the regional leadership, they are supposed to foster a stable security environment and sustainable development in the region, as well as reducing the region poverty level. And second, how a region can solve a collective action problem. So standing as the regional leadership, so need to know how to solve collective action problem, especially deriving from decentralized bargaining among group of states. In this case, the region leadership stands as the mediator to find solution to solve the collective problem in the region. Third, regional leadership actors are expected to lead the regional community building. The leadership need to support the development of regional organization framework and other regional community building mechanism. And fourth, representing the interests of regional community, as the leadership in the region need to represent the interest of community in the wider global community. Is strongly associated with the exercise of regional leadership. That is all for the part on theory. So next presenter will present about mainstream thinking on international leadership. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's move to the mainstream thinking on international leadership. And in this part, we will understand the mainstream thinking on the international leadership and leadership. And as we know, the current literature leadership is slightly influenced by the American scholarship. And much literature on the leadership mainly dominated by the work of American scholars because to some extent, the status of American superpower in the contemporary world order has aroused people's attention, and it exhibits for the following characteristic like US-oriented empirical study, a tendency to adopt a unitary state-centric approach of study, both the form and exercise of leadership, a general fixation on hegemony, hierarchy, and harder form of power exercised by leading state, and the overt focus on power-based analysis of leadership with strong emphasis on hegemonic, dominant, and increasingly unipolar actions. So move to the next slide. And here the point of view of ontological and epistemological. And ontological, here they mean that the nation state is almost, they explain the leadership like the nation state is almost exclusively the only real actor in international system about to perform leadership function. In this scholarship, likely treat state as the unitary entity, and so it's not deconstruct into composite element. And the epistemological is the mainstream literature has been likely found on positivist and empiricist principle, and it leading to an emphasis on deductive logic to find out the truth. And generally, on the nature of mainstream American scholar on international relations, the hegemonic discourse of U.S. international relations omit most of the content of the world politics, notion of rationality, and other truths. And the rationalist concept of leadership believes that power capacity is main determinant of country choice. The material basic of leadership has mostly focused on hard power, and the hard power here for the realists, they refer for the realists and neo-realists, they mostly refer important to the military power. They have believed that this is the main foundation of American hegemony for many years. And also, other examples of hard power capacity include like economic, technological, technocrat nature, and generally we see that in our region, the material basic of China's recent government is mainly derived from economic development, and China has the ability to take advantage of rising economic power more effectively than Japan's. And move to the next slide. And here we will talk about the hegemonic stability theory. It is the mainstream thinking on international leadership, and it mostly also influenced by American scholarship. It is based principally on realist and neo-realist assumption that the international system is anchored by hegemonic state power. Hegemonic state provide leadership through the provision of international public good in order to maintain the stability in the international system. And it is important to make a distinction between the concept of hegemony and leadership. The hegemony is one of the power sector, and hegemonic action can be interpreted as exercise of leadership, and it's not the exclusive basis on which leadership may be formed. And in contrary, the leader with leadership that they will rather work more in conjunction or consensus with other and keeping the idea of the partnership. And about another term or concept that closely associated with leadership is hierarchy, and it is related more to the structure of the international system and the distribution of power rather than direct leadership or exercise their power. And according to the author Kang, the hierarchy can be seen as a system of international relations organized around central dominant power that involves share the expectation of right and responsibility for both dominant and secondary power. In the international system, this unequal power distribution is more likely stable than where the power distribution generally exists. He believed that the hierarchy has always been the historical tradition of East Asian international relation. And the example that we can see is the China's tributary system. The Middle Kingdom is at the center of the vassal state. And ASEAN international relation conform more to a hierarchical system than balancing. The hierarchy is more stable than realist allow. In international relation, the lack of hierarchy often lead to the conflict. He also further argued that the hierarchical view how the equality is most dangerous because when there are two countries that have almost the same power, so they might need to resort to war or have a conflict to determine which country is the dominant. And move to the next part. About the emerging theory on regional leadership. In this respect, the core focus on power still likely relate to the mainstream of international leadership. In similarity, the term regional power has become the synonym of regional leader, and consequently, the idea of regional leadership. Most reference of regional power are related to the ruling or hegemonic country in regions such as Japan or China in the East Asia, India in South Asia. And in here, the author Flame also talk about the regional power. They may be distinguished by the following determinant, like the claim to power, power resource, employment of foreign policy instrument, and the acceptance of leadership by regional neighbor states. And their main role is stabilize regional security affairs and formulate rules in the regional economic. Other scholars, they emphasize the country internal cohesion and the capacity of state to perform exercise of regional leadership. So move to the next slide. Yes, for example, in terms of how the internal dynamic of the state politics system and economics should allow it to play stabilizing role in the region. And Indonesia is a good example. In terms of geographic size and population, and has been the regional leader of the Southeast Asia community in the past. However, Indonesia still lack in the internal cohesion and capacity to perform regional leadership. And even in the sub-regional level, and especially like the financial crisis in 1997 and 1998. So therefore, the internal capacity for leadership at regional and international level is critical. And to sum up, the existing literature on regional leadership still does not exceed the analytical perspective or the premise of mainstream thinking on international leadership. So the next part, we will know more how the leadership in the region, like for China and Japan. So let's move to the next presenter.
Thank you. So now we will be starting the regional leadership in East Asia with a different analytical approach. So we've been paying close attention now towards the region of how the relationship between like Japan and China and so on. Now we will talk about the regional leadership of the countries and in the region of East Asia. So according to Renwick, East Asia, he describes it as different from like the Western, because like regarding its structures, processes, and cultural and political governance, it differs from the Western thinking where it's more of a hegemonic thing. Between, like, we can say, for instance, like how the US and China are like fighting for to be the first in economy, but yeah, but for in East Asia, rather than being that way, it's more of like, it's less assertive and more of a cooperation style. And like my friend mentioned earlier, she said that East Asia retains regional order and maintains peace in the region, and the measures taken is like through mutuality, commitment to multilateralism, and so on. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So for international leadership, it tends to be assumed that actors need to exercise their leadership through foreign policy, which is true, but states can also be understood and seen through other measures, like through composites such as actors, pressures, and interest groups, and so on. And this concept is applied especially on East Asia regions, like especially China and Japan, where boundaries are pretty blurred between the state representatives. And for instance, we can look at the Iron Triangle, where non-state actors are involved in the state's affairs to a certain extent. Like during the Japan's Business Association application towards the leadership on foreign trade area in East Asia's region. Okay, so since we are talking about that, it's also necessary to address the composite nature of the state and the different agency levels, which are the state levels, where they exercise the leadership and can be identified through 3 types, which are the regional leader actors, followership, and intermediary actors. So starting off, the regional leader actors, it refers to the different types and composite of agencies, which like refers to the capacity under a specific identification to take the initiative concerning like the issue, and then also basing it on the resources of the states itself. And if we were to reflect it in this case, we can see that Japan and China has a greater success rate towards their counterparts. Why? Because of the resources and the influences they have, not only domestically, but also like internationally. So yeah. Next, we have followership, which concerns the willingness of the actors to exercise regional leadership. If otherwise, like example, one members of the region does not want to like comply, it means that it's like causing hinder or like resistance towards the development. So if we were talking about followership, we can see like ASEAN +3, which are the countries of East Asia, like South Korea, China, and Japan. And if one country, example, China or Japan, either countries take leadership, the other country also has to follow, and vice versa. And lastly, the intermediary actors, it's like to facilitate the regional leadership through either by mediating or by working together for the regional leadership to happen. And it can also be facilitated through regional multilateralism and multilateral cooperation. Like back when South Korea was acting as the middle power, mediating in the trilateral Northeast Asian diplomacy, working alongside with Japan and China. Next slide, please. Thank you. So those 3 that I mentioned earlier aren't the only ways to identify like or what's the word, to let's say identify regional leadership. Regional leadership can also be like identified or structured through governance, issue determined areas, and geospatial. So firstly, governance. It follows the domestic and international structures of and mechanism through which exercise of regional leadership is operated. So primarily, how regional leader actors govern and their relationship with other states is also important. Like, you can't really work together in peace, especially when East Asia, their main thing is working together and maintaining peace and so on. Yeah. And next we have issue determined areas, which concerns with sectors as environment, pandemics, human assistance, finance, piracy, and so on, which arise in relation to specific issue events, of course. And for instance, we can say like what's happening right now, the pandemic that we're all going through. And yeah, and actually Japan and China, they are cooperating together during this time to help offset sea dispute and stuff that's going on. The last one is geospatial, which also for the issue determined areas, China and Japan are also working together so that they can like help sustain and stop the spread, and you know that how they like work together as two good friends. For geospatial, it relates to the links between the political, geography, and social construction regions. So it's like by regional organization membership and the relevance of different geospatial scales and of the region. So my friend will further elaborate on the new leadership in East Asia. So thank you.
Sorry, Rennie, are you presenting? We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So moving on to the alignment of identity and associations, as you may have heard from the previous presenter, regional leader actors have many alignment of identities and association both at domestic and international levels. However, they only identify and associate with regional areas that they think any form of regional leadership will be exercised. Therefore, it is important for people to explore the regional leader society core values and ideational foundations at various levels, including early decision makers and the general public, in order to examine the identities and interests. And in the cases of Japan and China, they identify themselves as being East Asia, in which Japan believes that they have stronger bonds of association with the Western nation rather than the Asian continent, whereas China also has a close tight relationship with the developing world community as well, since they are an emerging global power. And simple reason of China and Japan identifying themselves as East Asia is probably because they have stronger association there, where they have more chances to exercise and cultivate their regional leadership appropriately in the global governance and global multilateralism related issues. Next slide, please. Talking about styles and modes of regional leadership is that different regional leaders have different characteristics in exercising their leadership. Some leaders may be constructed as hegemonic, whereas some other leaders may be constructed as non-hegemonic. And in the cases of Japan and China, being regional leaders, their leadership behavior may be constructed as as hegemonic, but not entirely and over-hegemonic. Instead of exploiting their hegemonic power and supremacy through singular or independent acts, they tend to work more in cooperation and consensus with others as a regional leading partner. Both Japan's and China approaches to regional leadership in East Asia can be explained as a non-hegemonic approach, in which China used a diplomatic strategy as an approach to its regional leadership, in which China acts as a responsible member of both regional and global community, rather than an explicit leader. Where China political leaders try to advance the notion of the country peaceful rights and peaceful development, which was an official policy in China under the former paramount leader Hu Jintao, in which he sought to assure the international community that China's growing political, economic, and military power would not pose a threat to the international peace and security. And similar to China, Japan also uses a stealth or quiet leadership approach in exercising their regional leadership role by focusing on ascendant threat mitigation as well. It is believed that Japan's invisible advancement to regional leadership has gone mostly unnoticed in an era of North Korea provocation and raging COVID-19 pandemic, in which Japan has deepened ties with neighbors, expanded multilateral initiatives, and set the regional agenda on trade and digital governance, among other issues. It can be seen that amid intense provocation by China and North Korea, Japan has been working cooperatively with neighbors in dealing with multilateral related issues. However, their contribution has mostly gone unnoticed, which is why Japan is known to be a quiet leader within the region. So inside both Japan and China, exercises of leadership are associated with various levels of regional power, in which they behave as a responsible member who is willing to take responsibilities both at regional and international levels. That's it for my part. The next presenter will elaborate more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Renee, for your elaboration. So right now, let's move to another point that talking about regional multilateralism. So right now, we will take a look on the contender. We will take a look on China and Japan as a contender, and both countries practice their own regional multilateralism. So like you already get some basic idea from the previous speakers already, China and Japan are granted to demonstrate responsibility because China and Japan, both of those countries, are highly potential and qualified for to be the leader, and so it means that both countries can respond to any kinds of issue that are happening in the region. So okay, here. So that's why we should take a look about we intentionally to use various points that we use on the regional leadership in East Asia, and all of those points are presented by Goneta already about the governance dimension, issue determinant area, and geospatial dimension. And I forgot to include in one more point about the agency function that are presented by Goneta as well. So right now, let's take a look about the governance dimension. We have seen that through some framework of Asian +3 or East Asian Summit, we have seen that China and Japan has played an important role to work with the other regional blocs such as ASEAN and such as for instance, such as some external actor like the framework of East Asia Summit, like we have Australia, India, New Zealand, Russia, and the United States, and also China and Japan and South Korea themselves that located in East Asia. So through the framework that are proposed and also established by some of the member states, they seem that they can use it as a governance framework in order to talk with the outsider. To talk with the outside the country and to deal with some problem in order to have a good governance in the region. And somehow they also use issue determine area as well, because like on the task state, the issue determine area is like to find an issue and then to determine an issue and then to elaborate more issue, to enlarge issue and to take a lead in order to solve the problem. So talking about this, we have seen that China also has some interest in issue determine area. So I think that you guys may be familiar with the cooperation from China and ASEAN as well, the Mekong Lan-Chan. Yeah, Mekong Lan-Chan cooperation. So we have seen that China and ASEAN cooperatively established this thing because they want to deal with the issue of Mekong River. They want to maintain and they want to keep intact, and also to develop the quality of water and to develop many infrastructure along the lower Mekong region. We have Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, and also Myanmar. And the leader is China. And the other one dimension is a geospatial dimension. So we have seen that Japan, like which Mian mentioned in the earlier at the beginning of the presentation, Japan looking for a counterbalance countries like the US and like India in order to counter the influence of China in the region. So this is related to the geospatial dimension. And on the other hand, both countries try to contest one another in order to contain the influence from one another by extending the contested regional multilateralism. So we already see that example like China, they expand their influence to ASEAN, like I already talked about the Mekong Lan-Chan cooperation. And moreover, in addition, China also spread their influence to the Central Asia as well through the organization that's called the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And the member state of this cooperation are also interesting as well, because mostly they are located in the center of Asia. So we have Russia, Kazakhstan, China, Uzbekistan, and some multiple observer states like as India, Iran, and Pakistan, and also some countries that want to be a dialogue partner, such as Belarus as well. So it means that China, they want to by this cooperation, we can get it as an evidence that China, they want to expand their influence to the central of China as well. But take a look about Japan. Japan, it seems like Japan is lacking of expansion in the region. But actually, Japan also working in bilaterally with ASEAN, with some of the actors as well. And talking about global multilateralism, we also already understand that in the global stage, China and Japan stick to champion and represent the interests of East Asia. But we should remember that this is depend on the particular issue that they want to represent or not. It depends on their own interests as well. So example like in 2009, China joined Copenhagen climate change, but actually they did not. China did not represent the interests of East Asia. They come to cooperate with some highly developed countries such as India and Brazil, and China forgot about the interests of the East Asia and the neighboring country interests. So it's a little bit sad for regional country as well. And so right now let's move to a conclusion. So in order to recap what we present, our group present to all of you, we hope that you can get take some key point away, and you can elaborate more for your further study if you wish to. The first one is that regional leadership remain a new thing to study. It's like this is the thing that we should want to give attention to you, because regional leadership somehow might be misstudied by some observer as well. And right now, like we already seen that after the collapse of Cold War, many countries intentionally to open their border to the outsider. So when they intentionally open their border, it means that the cooperation is prevail. So when the cooperation is prevail, the regional leadership also prevail as well. And this is the new thing that we should take a look and learn in the future. And on the other hand, to be specific, talking about the regional leadership in East Asia, they are require new approaches to study, because in East Asia there are a lot of actors like us, ASEAN, 10 countries of ASEAN. We have China, we have South Korea, we have Japan, India, and all of those countries are eligible to be a regional leadership for some extent. And we also have New Zealand, we also have Australia. And on the other hand, right now East Asia become a region that highly potential, and everybody interested in East Asia, like European and also the US. So to be specific, take a look about these two contenders. China is a potential country to be a regional leader in East Asia. We already know about it because of the initiation of Belt and Road, because of the capability of their military, and also the technological development, material, and sometimes China also is considered as a supplier to the outside actor as well. So China has a huge potential to be a regional leader in East Asia. But at the same time, we should not underestimate Japan as well, because even though Japan cannot reach their highest potential in terms of military, but they can have many more things that they can develop into the region, they can contribute to the region, and they also talking about the technological development, they highly potential as well, and they are capable to lead the region as well, even though they are holding back of their own constitution. I think the Article 9, if I'm not mistaken, the article that talking about the military capability of Japan, they cannot extend their capability of military. So this is one of the limit influence. This thing is evident that limit the influence and also the coercion of Japan. So thank you so much, and this is the end of our presentation.
Okay, thank you, Group Number 4, for a very insightful presentation. Okay, so I hope that our classmates can gain some insight from the presentation. Okay, so now it is the floor for the audiences to ask questions, to give comments. You have any question or you have any comment? You can write your question and in the chat box. I will read the question to the presenters, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question to the presenters. Okay, so now the floor is yours, please. Any questions or any comments for the presenters? Okay, គ្នាយើងមានសំណួរក៏មាន comments ទៅលើចំណុចណាមួយដែលយើងចង់ clarify ឬក៏យើងចង់បន្ថែម please Okay, ប្រហែលជាអត់មានទេណាអញ្ចឹង I think the presentation are very clear and very insightful. So I think the presenter touched upon the main ideas of the articles. However, I would like group number 4 to clarify 2 points. I think one is ontological things, yeah, ontology, right, and epistemology. So how can we apply these two approaches to understand, the regional leadership? So what is ontology and what is epistemology? Can you explain more about that?
Yes, thank you for the question. And the ontology is the branch of study that study on the concepts such as the existence or the reality. And for the epistemology, like is the study on the concept of the knowledge. And in these two, if we apply to the international leadership, like in the book, like they mention that for the ontology, they said the nation state is the real actor in the international system to perform the leadership. And so it's not the non-state actor like the multilateral institutions or civil society. And for the
epistemological things,
the epistemological, they like they use the they
Hello, sir. Can I handle the question?
Yes, you can add to what your teammate mentioned earlier.
Okay. Thank you again, sir. Because this is I just want to elaborate more about Quang, but actually I'm not really clear about it, and also need your explanation as well about this. But this is what I can respond. So ontological point of view is mean that the study about leadership. I mean the leadership can be functioned by exclusively by the state. So it means that the only state is the actor that can be lead, and they can lead thing or lead to do this or to do that in order to implement policy. So they are not focused about the other agency. They are not focused about the any actors like us, like multi cooperation or some NGO or intergovernmental organization, because they believe that only state can perform a leadership function. And about the epistemological is the mainstream literature that largely stated that study about leadership should study about leadership. We can only study about from the positivist approach and empiricist approach. This teacher.
Okay, okay, thank you for your explanation. So I wanted to explain more, right? So that everyone can, understand more about, ontology, epistemology, positivism, and empiricism, right? Empiricism. I think these are very important, when we study, IR theory, right? Yeah, mainstream thinking, or we study about the worldview, we study about, the tradition, right? The IR theory, right? IR theory. ចឹងទាំងអស់នោះគឺសុទ្ធតែជា philosophy សុទ្ធតែជា meta theory. Meta theory is about theory of theory គឺជាទិសដៅបត់មួយដើម្បីបញ្ចូលអំពីទិសដៅបត់មួយទៀតណា I think more complicated more abstract ណា more abstract Ontology and epistemology are branches of philosophy គឺជាផ្នែកមួយនៃទស្សនវិជ្ជាណាទស្សនវិជ្ជា Ontology is the study of being right the study of social reality the study of social existence right what exists in our society what exists in our world and what exists in the universe and ontology try to focus on something that is truly exists that is close to the natural science that can be carried out by the natural science right the methodology right so through investigation through observation or through data collection right to get idea to get the fact or to get the data right to analyze the social reality right social reality the social reality or the being can be material can be can be something about power hard power there's something about the number of soldier the size of population the size of territory it could be the modern technology right yeah something that we can see something that visible something that tangible right the other social reality or existence right the being right can be institutional and psychological right จะเป็นแค่ perception ឬក៏ your idea your assumption your perception right could be a subject for ontological study right ontological study right study and there are so many ontologies យើងមើលទៅគឺមាន ontology ច្រើនមែនតើដូចជា Plato Aristotle August Comte right and Immanuel Kant right all the ontologies because they focus on what already exists in the world right in the world so they study about social reality they study about the being right what's the being to be right what is exists in our universe right that's the ontological question for the mainstream theory on the international leadership so they focus on state state is the real thing state is the being right state exists in the international politics state exists in the world right or in the universe state is the real actor in international system yes state is a unitary actor to function right as political entity to perform leadership function right in the real politics or in the international anarchy right ចឹងនៅក្នុង ontology ក្នុងនេះគឺពីជ្រៅគឺគាត់ផ្ដោតទៅលើ mainstream theory មួយ mainstream thinking គឺ classical realism right because they give more value to the state right the state is the more rational state is the main actor state is the real and the unitary actor right in the international system that perform the leadership position right position epistemology is also part of philosophy right part philosophy is about study of knowledge or the study of understanding just to broaden right to build your understanding right about a social phenomenon right or a social reality so sometimes we question ourselves whether we gain the knowledge or not ចឹង epistemology has to deal with two important study the study of knowledge and the study of justification right ចឹងចំណេះដឹងជាមួយនឹង justification justify belief right justify belief and the study of knowledge you need to ask yourself whether and whether something right is count as knowledge តើអ្វីគឺជា knowledge the way that you learn from the social media the way that you learn from the book can be counted as the knowledge the question right you keep asking your question right asking yourself so what is the relationship between knower and what is known between knower and what is known អ្នកដឹងជាមួយនឹងអ្វីដែលយើងដឹង how we compare between what the other people know and what is known right what you know right what you know and how can we know what we know right អានេះគឺជាសំណួរបែបទស្សនវិជ្ជាណាទស្សនវិជ្ជា how do you know what you know? And how do you know compared to the others? And what count as knowledge? So that epistemological question, right? Epistemological question. As a study of justified belief, right? Numerical justification, right? What is justification? How can we justify the justified belief? How can we justify the conventional wisdom? How can we justify the worldview, the theory, right? What is justification? อันนั้นคือเชื่อสมมุติอะไรที่สู้ถ้า we add beyond knowledge to broaden our understanding, right? That philosophical question, right? And in here, the scholar want to look at, how we use, epistemological, point of view to look at, international leadership, right? So they take a look at two important ways that they can build their knowledge. One is positivism. So positivism is, the way that, the people or the scholar, can study the social issue. They can, do research on a particular issue through any methodology similar to the social science ไหน chứ positivism คือความ very objective คือความមើលតែ a particular social reality. There is only one social reality. There could not be multiple social reality, right? Only one social reality. ឧទាហរណ៍ដូចជាតាក់ទងមួយ state, right? State is the important actor. So we question about state, right? Can any other actor, right, is equivalent, right? Or is, similar to state, right? So there is only one reality, that is state, right? State is very important. And state is, do something, right, in order to gain power. They exercise their, hard power. Yet sometimes they also protect their soft power, right, to maximize, their interest, to maintain, right, their relevance, right, to gain more, national interest from, the international system, right, from international system. ចឹង positivism copy interpretivism, right? Interpretivism គឺ everything can be subject to different interpretation, right? អញ្ចឹង for interpretivism វាមាន mainstream theory ផ្សេងទៀតឧទាហរណ៍ដូចជា constructivism ឬក៏ជា relativism, right? Constructivism វាមើលទៅលើ collective norm ឬក៏ collective identity, right? Relativism វាមើលទៅលើ cultural relativism. អញ្ចឹងអ្វីទៅគឺ subject to different interpretation. One social reality can be, interpreted, right, in many different ways, right? There are multiple social reality, right? វាតកតងជាមួយនឹងសិទ្ធិមនុស្សក៏តកតងជាមួយនឹង លទ្ធិប្រជាធិបតេយ្យគឺ we subject to different interpretation, right? ប៉ុន្តែ positivism ក៏គិតផ្សេងហើយក៏គិតថា there is only one social reality. The way that we study social reality is objective, right? Objective. Cannot be subjective, right? It's objective. And that is positivism, right? A positivist, principle. Any question, everyone? ចឹង positivism គឺគាត់មើលទៅលើអ្វីមួយ right? Only one social reality based on objective, right? Research methodology, right? Research methodology. So mostly they focus on, the natural science methodology. តកតងជាមួយនឹងវិទ្យាសាស្ត្រពិតណាក្នុងការសិក្សាអំពីវិទ្យាសាស្ត្រសង្គមណាវិទ្យាសាស្ត្រសង្គមហើយប្រកបហើយជាទូទៅគឺ focus ទៅលើ quantitative study, right? Quantitative study. They focus on the way that they can observe, the way that we can investigate, the variable. They can collect the data and interpret, right, the data to to explain or to describe or to analyze, the social issue more objectively, right? And so this is the way that, positivists, do, right? And empiricism, right, focus on the numerical, interpretation, right? It based on, empirical data. It based on, the research, right? The data collection, right? The computerized, way that you can, analyze data, right? And raw data, how to, analyze, a certain, phenomena, right? In your research, right? Research. Yeah, therefore I think the mainstream theory, for sure, they try to look at is something beyond, right? You know, the first order theory, right? They look, you know, beyond, you know, they want to understand about the nature, right, of the mainstream, right, thinking, right, on the international leadership, right, leadership. Just ontology, epistemology, right, are very important, right? I think component, you know, to understand the nature of theory, right, the nature of thinking, right, the nature of mainstream thinking on, you know, international leadership, right? Yeah, for sure, they focus on state as the only unitary actor, right, in the international system. They look at, you know, the way that state, you know, exercise the power, you know, in terms of hard power, and sometimes they project their soft power, you know, uh, to make, you know, that decision, right? You know, to take the lead, you know, in the regional, you know, institution, right? And here they trying to discuss further, right, about how, you know, Japan and how, you know, the United States and how many other, you know, countries, you know, get involved in you know, regional grouping, right, or institutionalism, right? Cho nên cái chi với đại dương cái thằng complicated, you know, to understand, right? เชื่อว่าที่อันปอนนั่นคือ very very important คือគាត់ move ពី abstract, you know, explanation ហើយต่อមកសិក្សាអំពី you know, why, you know, the study of regional leadership is, you know, lacking, right? I think in the literature, right? Why we need to look at, you know, the way that we can theorize, you know, the study of regional leadership. And after that, you know, the author, they apply two important case studies. Case study of, you know, China and case study of Japan, right? How can these two become, you know, the competing, right? How they, you know, cooperate with one another to, you know, co-lead, you know, the regional grouping, right? The East Asian, right? You know, regionalism, right? How can they do that, right? I think the author will explain one by one, right? One by one. So this is the way, you know, that, you know, the author, you know, structure, right? His writing, structure his article, right? Moving from more abstract to, you know, practical, right? Case study, right? Case studies. Okay, any other question, everyone? Okay,មួយទៀតគឺជា observation របស់ខ្ញុំមួយទៀត right? So I think you pointing out the hegemonic, you know, stability theory, and for sure, right? The hegemon, right? You know, tend to provide public good, you know, to maintain the stability, right? The hegemon, you know, trying the best, you know, trying, because, you know, hegemon is so powerful, is stronger than the others in the system, right? And the hegemon, you know, trying to protect, you know, the leadership, and trying to create, you know, the rule, build the norms, and reinforce the rules and the norms, and get many other actors, right? You know, to comply with the rules and norms, right? It's just like the United States, you know, after the Second World War, and particularly, you know, after the Cold War, the US is a champion of the world order, right? The champion of, you know, the ideology, the champion of the war, right? The war. It defeated, you know, many other countries, including, you know, Soviet Union, right? At the end of, you know, the 1980s. And finally, you know, US, you know, created, you know, a Bretton Woods institution. He created, you know, the global, you know, economic system, right? Economic regime. And also, you know, the world, the global, right? Liberal international order, right? Yeah, hegemonic liberal international order, centering on four important components. The first is, for sure, right, the multilateralism, the alliances, right, in European country and also in Asia, right? And also, you know, the democracy, right? The democracy, and, you know, the way, you know, that the US can, you know, protect leadership, right, in the international organization or international institution, right? So I think the the leader, right, the author, you know, want to compare, you know, between how Japan and China project their leadership, right, in East Asia, that is different from what US is doing, right? So what is the model of, you know, East Asian power and the United States, right, as the global hegemon? So what was the model, right, of leadership, right? between US, Japan, and China. What do you think? Can you explain more about that? I think if you apply that, if you apply, hegemonic stability theory, right? To the East Asian regionalism, we cannot do so, right? Because in East Asia there are more great powers, right? More great powers. You mean great power ច្រើន right? ជាជាពិសេសគឺតាក់ទងមួយចិនជាមួយនឹងជប៉ុនណា Japan. So there are great powers. South Korea is just the middle power, right? South Korea cannot compete, with the power of China. And South Korea cannot compete with the power of Japan, right? At the regional level, sub-regional level, and international level. So in East Asia, we can see the de facto leaders, right? Leaders, China and Japan, right? So how can we apply, hegemonic stability theory, right, to the East Asian regionalism? We can do so, right, when we apply, that theory, to the, global, regionalism, right? Global, in global level, right? We apply to the international level when, US become the only, global hegemon, right? To provide the public good, to maintain the world peace and stability. How about East Asian regionalism? How can we apply, hegemonic stability theory, right, to East Asian regionalism, right? Is it applicable or we cannot apply that theory, right, to East Asian regionalism? How can you explain that? Group 4.
Yes, sir. We would like to get some time to think a little bit.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay, group 4, it's time now. You have any response to my question?
Okay, sure. All right, about the question, how can we apply the hegemonic stability theory into the East Asia? According to our discussion earlier, we think that the hegemonic stability theory cannot really apply into the East Asian regional leadership because we have two reasons. The first one is that it's like East Asia, yeah, generally, and the situation in East Asia right now is not like the situation after World War II, like the US already was a hegemonic country that they introduced a Bretton Woods at that time, because you know that after the World War II there was a real destruction in the world, and every part of the world need to recover, and that's the US introduced the Bretton Woods idea into the world. So that's why some country they would like to practice the Bretton Woods. And on the other hand, East Asia, you know, the region is not a completely came from a destruction like World War II. I mean, they have their own style in order to develop themselves. So, example like China during the 18th decade to support myself under the reformation from Deng Xiaoping. So China they practice Deng doctrine in order to reform themselves in order to be to come out of poverty. And about the Japan, they have their own East Asia miracle. So on the other hand, this is another reason, and one another reason is that East Asia, they are a lot of actors, like we already mentioned in the presentation. There are a lot of powerful, not really powerful, but they somehow they have their own way to develop themselves, to rule themselves. Like China and Japan, sometimes they want to do this and they wanted to do that, and like we also mentioned that Japan, they want to enlarge the East Asia community, like they want to cooperate with the counterbalance country like India, but somehow China, they want to keep in touch or to propose the bilateral agreement with developing countries. So the hegemonic stability likely not to apply in East Asia. This is what I think here.
Okay, thank you. I agree with you, right? I agree with you that hegemonic, stability theory is not, applicable, to East Asian regionalism, right? So actually, the term, the theory itself is part, right? It's a part of current of thought. It's a part of, traditional realist, point of view, right? ជាទូទៅគឺគេពេលតែ hegemonic stability theory គឺគេផ្ដើមចេញមកពី polarity unipolarity. There's only one single hegemonic power, to create the system, to determine the system, to reinforce, create the rule, right? Reinforce the rule and get others to respect the rule, right? Hegemonic is stronger than the others in terms of military and economy. He create or he shape, the structure to the interest and the value, right, of the hegemonic power. And he want the other to respect that kind of situation, right? That kind of rule, that kind of, system, right? To comply with the kind of international norm, right? And then very aggressive, right? Aggressive, leadership, right? It's just like, US and currently, right, in the international system. US does not want China to be, the powerful country. It does not want China to be strong, right? Equally, or, getting stronger, right? They can challenge the supremacy, right, of the United States. So it impose a lot of pressure, a lot of, a political and, military, pressure, right, on on China, right, currently, right? Yeah, this is how, US as a global hegemon, right, exercise their leadership in the international system. They want they want every country, including China, to respect, the current international order, the liberal international order, dominated by the West and the United States. They want every country in the world, to respect, the international law and the existing, right, international organization or institution. You can see, right, the type of leadership, right, is a little bit, assertive, a little bit, aggressive, right? To take a lead, in the international system, right? In our East Asia, we don't need that kind of leadership, right? They are competing, the power competing, right? Competing. We have many emerging powers. We have several great powers in Asia, right? And also, in East Asia, right? So they're competing, right, in terms of power, in terms of economy, and also in terms of, strategy, right? Geopolitics, in the region, right? In the region. អញ្ចឹងហើយបានជាយើងអាចចង់ឲ្យឃើញឲ្យមាន single hegemon ไว้ in the region or regional hegemon ហើយគេភ័យរឿងប្រទេសចិនអាចខ្លាចទៅជា regional hegemon take aggressive leadership ហើយ in East Asia so this is what we concern ហើយចឹងអ្វីដែលអាមេរិកអ្វីដែលជប៉ុនអ្វីដែលអូស្ត្រាលីអ្វីដែល India ហើយគឺអាចចង់ឃើញអញ្ចឹងហើយអញ្ចឹងបានជាគេចាប់ដើមបង្កើតមាន Indo-Pacific strategy ហើយដើម្បី contain the influence of China to limit the influence to limit the power right of China right from getting stronger from modernizing in military its army right to become right the world class army by the year 2050 right 2050 or 2040 2049 of 2050 right ចឹងហ្នឹងគឺជា projected period for the liberation Chinese people right liberation army right to be the world class army right by the year of 2050 right 2050 អញ្ចឹងនៅក្នុងទស្សនវិជ្ជានៅក្នុង in East Asian right we have multi agency right we have multi structural right structural that we can look at governance dimension we can look at issue determining right dimension we can even look at geo spatial right dimension you're focusing on sub-regional level regional level or wider right international level right and sometimes China and Japan they take a lead in a particular area or in particular a sector right to move our regional integration forward right forward so it's depending on the way that they cooperate the way that they they work together right to deal with the common challenges to deal with the common problems and to promote the interest and benefit right of regional grouping right regional grouping I think many countries right inside the region right the region at the same time these two countries are competing right in terms of power in terms of economy yeah for sure right China surpass economy right surpass the economic growth of Japan right in 2010 right so lifting China become the second economic power just after the United States right and Japan become number 3 right in terms of economic power right economic power and in terms of military for sure China is getting stronger right stronger now right and Japan currently under the protection of the United States and therefore Japan want to reinterpret article 9 right of its own peace constitution right to be more relevant right in terms of security right in the region right in the region okay so they do together right they work together to some extent right to gain more benefit and to promote the regional right integration right integration នៅក្នុងទស្សនវិជ្ជាណាមួយណាទស្សនវិជ្ជាណាមួយ and in your opinion right group number 4 in your opinion so if you want only one right, you need only one country to be a leader right of East Asian right so which one do you prefer right China or Japan and why group 4 what do you think
Yes,
Teacher, can I have the question again?
so if you can choose between Japan and China to be only leaders in the region right in East Asia so which one did you choose and why
I don't think that we need to choose like one only absolute leader in the region.
so if you are required to choose
if
one
it's
right
required,
yeah so which one did you choose and why
I would like to discuss with my team first.
okay 1 minute Okay, group 4, what is your response?
Sure. About this question, okay. So if we are required to choose between Japan and China to be our regional leader, according to our discussion, we would like to choose China, and we have some reason. Because first of all, China has a lot of project involvement in regional country. So I'm speaking from the standpoint of Cambodia. So we have seen that we can be developed because of Japan. This is because of China, and China contribute a lot into regional problem. And on the other hand, we have a lot of projects like us that we mentioned already about Mekong Lanchan. So it seems like China, they play a leadership role in terms of leadership, not hegemony. So they want to impress the regional country in the region, and also work consensus with some country as well. So I believe that China, maybe they focus more on leadership and cooperation rather than exercise their military. And one more thing that we should we choose China because we consider about the geographical location, because China located in East Asia, not like Japan. Japan is like an archipelago country, so it means that they have no border with outside with many regions. And on the other hand, Cambodia, we use standpoint from Cambodia again. We share the same water, especially Mekong River from China. So we believe that China can develop the sub Mekong River by providing us a lot of projects like of infrastructure or environmental development. So this is what we think, and this is the reason that why we choose China.
Okay, thank you. So my follow-up question, right? Can you trust China to be a good leaders in the region?
Okay. Okay, sure. Actually, we are not completely trust China, sure, but we believe that rather than exercise the military coercion, we believe that China maybe favor cooperation rather than that. So that's why we should believe them.
Okay, yeah, that just thought-provoking question, right? I think for you and probably for the other classmates, right? Yeah, sometimes it's a matter of trust. Either China or Japan are good, right? Are good. Yeah, for Cambodia, right? Definitely, right? We gain a lot of benefit, from China. Without considering corruption, right? Or the other procedural a thing, right? But for Japan, we also gain a lot, right? From Tokyo, right? We gain a lot of benefit. We gain a lot of foreign aid. We gain a lot of ODA, right? ODA. We gain a lot of a training, right? We gain a lot of technology, right? From Japan, right? As well, right? I think it's the question very subjective, right? So we can interpret it, in many ways, right? Many ways according to your country position, right? According to your own, evidence, right, to support that. But if you take a look at the survey, by the ICS, of the from the ASEAN Study Center of the National University of Singapore, I think in 2020. So they found out that many scholars or many politicians, right? So they prefer Japan to China, right? So definitely they have a lot of option, right? To choose. So which actor, right, should be more trusted, as a leader, right? As the partner, right? In Southeast Asia, right? Southeast Asia. Then for sure, European Union ranked number 1. Yeah, followed by the United States, Japan and China, right? And the last one is India, right? So China cannot, compete, with, Japan, right, in terms of, trust, strategic trust, in terms of, reputation, right? Yeah, we can see, right, what China is doing now, right, in Asia, right? Yeah, particularly in the South China Sea. What's doing now, in along the border, right, with many countries around, with India, with Japan, with South Korea, or even with other countries, right, regarding the Mekong region, right? About the way that they control the water, right? In the upstream river, and how they keep the water, how they produce the hydropower dam, right? And so on and so forth, right? So China is strong, right? Very strong. Is rising, right? It's rising. It's very powerful, right? But at the same time, there are so many criticism, right? How China projected, the hard power, how it projected the soft power, right? Not only in Southeast Asia, but also in the world, right? Particularly along the One Belt, One Road initiative, right? Okay, so yeah, again, right? So the article is very, very good. Yeah, very, I think, insightful. I recommend you to read the article again. And if you have any question or you have any point, you need more clarification, so we can talk, right? In the next session, I will keep around 30 minutes, right, for discussion, right? About COVID-19, about the previous lecture, or about anything, right, about political issue, or about international politics, right? Yeah, before we give the floor to the the group 5, right, to present their chapter, right? Okay, so now it's already I think more than 2 hours now. So I believe that everyone is getting tired, right? Yeah, some even feeling hungry, right? Okay, so thank you, group 3, for your presentation today, and thank you everyone, yeah, for the time and your participation. So please continue to stay safe. No matter you are in red zone, in dark yellow zone, in yellow zone, or in friend zone, right? Yeah, just continue to stay safe, right, from COVID-19. And I will tell you more about our midterm exam, right? Yeah, not next week, right? The other week, right? The other week. So please prepare for your presentation, right, group number 5, and we'll let you know what you are preparing for your midterm exam. Okay, any other question, everyone?
No, sir.
Okay, so enjoy your evening, right? Your evening, and tomorrow is your holiday, right? Okay, yes, stay safe and enjoy your day, right? Okay, goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, let's stay safe.
Stay safe and see you next time, and enjoy your holiday and your weekends.